Before the fame, before the screaming crowds and stadium lights, there was just a skinny kid from Liverpool named Richard Starkey. Born on July 7, 1940, in the working-class Dingle neighborhood, Ringo's life began quietly and not especially easy. His parents loved music and dancing, but stability was harder to come by. His father drifted away when Ringo was young, leaving his mother, Elsie, to raise him mostly on her own. Money was tight, the streets were rough, and childhood felt more fragile than carefree. Worse still, illness kept pulling him away from school and friends. At 6, complications from an appendectomy left him in the hospital for nearly a year. Later, tuberculosis put him back in long-term care again. For most kids, that kind of isolation might have felt lonely. For Ringo, it became the place where something unexpected bloomed. With nothing but hospital trays, furniture, and a pair of sticks, he started tapping rhythms just to pass the time. Those small beats became comfort. Music wasn't just entertainment, it became company. Finding music in everyday life. When he finally returned home for good, Ringo wasn't interested in textbooks anymore. He felt behind in school, disconnected, unsure of where he fit. But rhythm made sense to him. He tapped on biscuit tins, tabletops, anything that made noise. Liverpool in the 1950s was buzzing with skiffle music, homemade, scrappy, joyful, and it felt perfect for a kid who built instruments out of whatever he could find. He took odd jobs to help out, working wherever he could, but every spare minute went back to music. His stepfather, Harry Graves, encouraged him and filled the house with big band records. That support mattered. For the first time, someone treated his passion like it was worth something. Then came the Christmas that changed everything. Harry bought him a second-hand drum kit. It wasn't glamorous, just a snare, bass drum, and a makeshift cymbal. But to Ringo, it may as well have been gold. From that moment, he wasn't just a kid who liked drumming, he was a drummer. First bands and growing confidence. Like many teenagers then, Ringo learned by doing. He joined friends in small local bands, playing tiny clubs where the crowd sometimes cared more about dancing than listening. But those early shows built confidence. He developed a style that wasn't flashy or technical. It was steady, musical, and deeply felt. He played for the song, not for attention. That quiet reliability became his signature. Eventually, he joined Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, one of Liverpool's most popular acts at the time. It was here that Richard Starkey transformed into Ringo Starr, a fun stage name inspired by the rings he wore and the bit of sparkle he brought to performances. During his drum solos, called Star Time, audiences began to notice his easy grin and relaxed humor. He wasn't trying to be a star. He just seemed comfortable being himself. And strangely enough, that's what made people love him. Hamburg and a fateful connection. In the early 1960s, many Liverpool bands traveled to Hamburg, Germany to play marathon sets in crowded clubs. The hours were long, the stages tiny, but the experience sharpened musicians fast. It was here that Ringo crossed paths with another scrappy group from Liverpool, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Pete Best. The Beatles weren't legends yet. They were just another hard-working band trying to survive the night. Still, there was something about them. Ringo occasionally sat in and played with them, and an easy friendship formed. No one could have guessed then that these late-night jams would quietly shape music history. But sometimes life changes not with a grand moment, just with a simple, "Hey, fancy playing a song with us?" Joining the Beatles. In 1962, that casual connection turned serious. The Beatles needed a new drummer, and John personally invited Ringo to join. It wasn't smooth at first. Pete Best had loyal fans who weren't happy about the change. There were boos, there were protests. For a moment, Ringo wondered if he'd made a mistake. Even producer George Martin briefly brought in another drummer during early recordings, which shook his confidence. But the band believed in him, and slowly fans did too. Once people saw his personality, the jokes, the warmth, the unpretentious charm, they embraced him. More importantly, his playing fit perfectly. Ringo didn't overpower songs, he supported them. His groove gave the Beatles their heartbeat. Beatlemania and the world stage. Then everything exploded. By 1963, Beatlemania had taken over Britain and soon after, America. Suddenly, they weren't just a band, they were a global event. When the Beatles appeared on The Ed Sullivan Show, 73 million people tuned in. Ringo, sitting calmly behind his kit, smiling like he couldn't quite believe any of it, became every viewer's favorite. He felt relatable, like someone you might know from down the street. Kids copied his haircut, fans held "I love Ringo" signs. In a group filled with big personalities and songwriting geniuses, he became the emotional glue. He kept things light when tensions rose. He cracked jokes when nerves set in. His steadiness balanced the storm. Struggles behind the spotlight. But fame isn't always easy, even when you look like you're having fun. Touring was exhausting. Studio sessions grew intense. Lennon and McCartney's creative partnership sometimes dominated the room, and Ringo occasionally felt like the odd man out. During the White Album sessions, the pressure built so high that he briefly walked away. He later admitted he simply felt unappreciated, yet the band missed him instantly. When he returned, they decorated his drum kit with flowers as a welcome back. It was a small gesture, but meaningful. It reminded him he mattered. Through all the ups and downs, Ringo stayed steady, not chasing ego, just doing the work. Life after the Beatles. When the Beatles finally ended in 1970, many wondered what would happen next. Surprisingly, Ringo landed on his feet almost immediately. His solo career produced hits like Photograph and It Don't Come Easy, proving he could stand on his own. He explored acting, television, and later formed the All-Star Band, a rotating group of musicians celebrating each other's songs in joyful, collaborative shows. It felt very Ringo, less competition, more camaraderie. Instead of chasing charts, he focused on fun, and audiences loved that about him. Family, peace, and perspective. Offstage, Ringo built a quieter life. He married, raised children, became a grandfather, and embraced meditation and a more mindful lifestyle. Over time, his message simplified into two words he repeats constantly: peace and love. It's not a slogan for him, it's a philosophy. After everything he's seen, from childhood illness to global fame, he seems to understand what really matters. Not the noise, not the headlines, just connection, kindness, and time with family. Looking back at 84. Now in his 80s, Ringo often reflects on the Beatles' years with honesty and warmth. He talks about the friendships more than the drama, the laughter more than the disagreements. He knows they weren't perfect, no band is, but he recognizes what they built together was extraordinary. There's no bitterness in his voice, only gratitude. He still tours, still plays with that same relaxed groove, still flashing that familiar smile behind the drums. Watching him now, you don't see someone chasing youth. You see someone who simply loves music and isn't done yet. A legacy built on heart. Ringo Starr's story isn't flashy or dramatic. It's quieter than that. It's about resilience. A sick kid who kept tapping rhythms. A working-class boy who followed a feeling. A drummer who held the world's biggest band together without ever demanding the spotlight. His greatness isn't just in the records or awards. It's in the warmth people feel when they hear his name. After all these years, he still seems like himself. Steady, funny, humble, and maybe that's the most remarkable thing of all. Some people chase stardom. Ringo just kept the beat, and somehow that simple rhythm changed the world.